Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and it's time to do another Forbidden Music. And the Forbidden Music I'm doing today is, in fact, the Beatles again. So what I chose today was Dr. Robert. And I do not have the appropriate record to show you as far as where that came from. In fact, I put it away somewhere. I don't have even the one that I got this off of to show you. I got it off of the American copy, not the butcher cover, of Yesterday and Today. And it originally, I think it's a Rubber Soul track. It would be Rubber Soul or Revolver. I'm not the biggest expert on any of this. But it is a track that got bumped to the Yesterday and Today collection because the record company were screwing the Beatles over and just taking tracks out of their records to put aside to sell people separately for more money. So this is back in the day of the Beatles being a huge deal, and even then they were running into trouble with stuff like that. That's why they did the Yesterday and Today cover the way that they did originally, was as a protest. Well, this is a heck of a track. It sounds very like ragged and abrasive. This is one of the ones off of the old red console, the tube console. And this is in the time when they were starting to get experimental and creative sound-wise. So they were inventing the sound of rock music at the time. But this is not the era where you had anything other than just guitar amps to set up. So these are sort of abrasive, clangy guitar sounds, but they're not as loud as you would imagine they are because they're not very high gain. Thing is, in the room they were probably deafening because when you run, so the rhythm guitars that you'll hear, basically the guitars are Gretsch's and Rickenbackers, if I'm not mistaken, because that skronk to the rhythm is very much a Gretschy into Vox kind of sound, a skronking turned up a lot, but you're not actually getting saturation, you're just getting a real clang out of things. That's a very good way of getting a percussive guitar sound. It's just not going to sound like anything very pleasing in the room. In the room, it's just going to take the top of your head off, but in the mix, it sits pretty well. The voices are very sonorous because the Beatles knew how to really project. They sang real loud. And there's a thing which I have always thought I heard. I don't know if any of you hear this or indeed will have the chance to, because this is another ContentID track so that it is playable on YouTube. I've always assumed that the groove to this track goes boom, ba-da-boom, boom, ba-da-boom. It's like, ring my friend, I said you'd call Dr. Robert. Boom, ba-da-boom, boom, ba-da-boom. And I can't work out where that's coming from. You would think it was the sort of thing that would come off of the drums. That would require a very nimble, right foot from Ringo Starr. I'm not sure he had that in him. If he did, he's not really projecting it very well. But I also think I hear it in the bass guitar. And that's the thing, is you can make a sound like that coming out of either of those bass instruments. And there is a reason why they would be having the groove go boom, ba-da-boom, boom, ba-da-boom, boom, ba-da-boom. It's because this is about a speed doctor. This track, and maybe that's why they left it off the original album in America, this track is clearly about them starting to get a little frisky with their private lives in that way. And yeah, that is clearly what this one's about. And so they've got a very upbeat, cheerful song going on. The ring my friend, I said you'd call Dr. Robert. But it has too much energy. And I think that's why the groove does that thing. They've got a great sort of shaker going on. There's a lot of high frequencies happening. You get to see where all of the peak energy shows up in the track. And that's how you build this sort of ultra high energy of golden age of rock music, when the Beatles were dominating everything, inventing a world that people imitated for years. These kinds of sounds can be done in the DAW if you know how to do it. If you can duplicate the behavior in Meter, you can duplicate the sound. But you have to place things the way they're being placed. Like your drum sounds are going to be more distant, roomy sounds. It's not nearly as much just close mic everything. They started doing more of that in, Revolver is famously where Jeff Emmerich first took an expensive microphone and put it real near the kick drum. This is not that. This is, they're miking a drum kit from something of a distance. They only had 4 tracks. They only had so many microphones. So it's really kind of that roomy sound like you also had in Rolling Stones albums of the day. And so if they're trying to do something like boom, ba-da-bum, boom, ba-da-bum in the bass and drums, it struggles to be expressed. You really have a hard time hearing it, but it kind of comes in a way. And another thing that's worth paying attention to in the Airwindows Meter version of all this is that zero cross meter that shows up in the blue dots at the bottom of the bottom meter. That's the same one that you get in ConsoleH and ConsoleX2. And that is a wide-ranging sea of blue dots. What that's basically saying is the signal as it's turning into a waveform and crossing zero has an extremely wide range of, sometimes it crosses over very slowly. There's a lot of low frequency. Sometimes it's a lot higher. It doesn't really dominate in any one place. And although it's capable of going down into what you would call the bass, there is bass on this track, the mid-range is so well balanced that it just fills up the entire sound. It's a very mid-rangey sound. You can get away with not having it be that way. But it's not only a mid-rangey sound in that it's sort of honking and sounds like it comes through a telephone. It's a broadly based mid-rangey sound. You've got low mids, you've got bass, you've got high mids, you've got high frequencies. They don't go up as high as like 1970s high frequencies or, God forbid, 80s high frequencies do. But you do have high frequencies there. And everything is forming a kind of spectrum that balances and sounds really strong. And one of the ways that's being done is really strident high mids, because that's what you get off of the natural sounds of these loud guitars and wailing on the drums and singing really loud. You get these extremely sonorous projecting tones just naturally out of the instruments being used. I feel like in some ways the reason that like guitars through amps and so on became so popular is that is a instrument that can kind of just naturally start to resemble the sounds that you make if a voice is projecting really loud. And these they tickle our ears. We hear that stuff as like, whoa, hey, something's happening. I'd better pay attention. And it's music that I like. Cool, let's pay attention even more closely. That's why I think the blue dots in the top meter representing sonority, that's why I think those narrowly focused balances between peak energy, because again, if you raise your voice, your peak energy will go up relative to RMS. The energy in the voice translates into higher peaks relative to the fullness of the sound. And this catches people's ears. And if that balances with the high frequencies, we start getting, those shouting, projecting, sonorous, loud, attention-getting sounds. And there was a time when these just came naturally out of the systems of recording and the systems of instrumentation that we were using. Now, these days you can make any kind of noise you like, but there's reasons why these were popular noises. Back in the day when people got into stuff like, the drum and bass or Amiga mods and that kind of thing, some of the same stuff would come together and go to some of the same places. So this is definitely worth studying. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the that part of the groove where I am convinced that since they were doing a song about a speed doctor, they decided that the groove had to go boom, bada boom, boom, bada 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 boom, bada boom, to be extra fast. And I've never been completely certain that that was what was happening, but I just have a strong hunch that somewhere in there, somebody in there is going and playing that little sort of extra fast fill-in in there. Anyhow, here is Dr. Robert. You don't get to hear all of it, but you get to see all of it in Meter, and you'll be hearing little snippets of it. And yeah, have fun. I'll come up with more forbidden music to play. Probably it's about time we did some more Eagles. You don't get to play Eagles. Or Jimi Hendrix. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you would like, AC/DC, that you know you can't hear on YouTube, but I could show you how it measures this way. Because what I have is yours to hear. Enjoy.
Friend,